So The Last of Us Part 2 is one of the most controversial games that has came out in the 2020s so far because of how much it has split the fandom. Either people really like this game or they really hate this game. They think it has a bad story, they hate characters and all that. Or you have people in the middle that enjoy the game but they see some flaws in the game. But I just want to talk about my experience with the game because I've played this game way too damn much. I've had multiple playthroughs. I looked on my PlayStation because, you know, they added that one feature that tells you how many hours you've played, and it says I played over 103 hours, and I'm like, how? But I don't really want to do none of them think pieces about if the game's good, the game's bad, all this other stuff, because there's so much stuff that has came out since this game came out, so many different opinions. I just want to talk about my experience because I just feel like everybody has their own experience with this game, and I just want to talk about my experience, and then maybe later we can get into the story and how I feel about certain parts. But I just want to talk about what I enjoyed about this game, what I don't like, all of that. I don't really want to get into if it's that good or bad game because there's been so many think pieces about this game. But yeah, let's talk about The Last of Us Part 2 because I got so much I want to talk about because I need to ramble about this game. So when it comes to The Last of Us series in general, this was one of these series I always watched other people play because at the time I didn't have a PlayStation 4 and I didn't really have one. And I remember watching the Rad Brad and Chris Smooth's playthrough of The Last of Us, and like they were so good and I always wanted to play this game. And then finally I did get a PS4 Pro, and when I finally got that, that's when I picked up the Last of Us Remaster. I played it, and I remember around that time, that's when that teaser trailer came out too. So like I kind of basically got it around the right time. It was just funny because the stuff just happened to line up right, that I beat the first game and the next thing you know, the teaser trailer was finally coming out. I was like, hey, that lined up perfectly. And I do remember around, I think it was 2018, a State of Play, that's when we actually got like the full like gameplay type of trailer, and this one showed off some of the stuff of the game. It showed us Ellie and some of the different new things they added. And I remember after seeing that, they did announce like all the collector editions, all the stuff you could buy, you could pre-order the game. And I remember running the GameStop like the next day or the next few days whenever that came out and pre-ordering this. I remember I did want the Ellie edition because that was like the highest one, but then I eventually got the collector edition because it looked better. And plus at my GameStop it was sold out, so I had to settle for this. But I'm not mad because this one does look better because it has like Ellie right there. I remember the game was originally supposed to come out like in February, but then, you know, eventually got delayed. And the funny thing is about that is I remember that whole time it got delayed, around that time close to it leading up to finally coming out, I remember there was a whole bunch of leaks and stuff like that coming out about like Joel's death and then like certain things that are going to happen in the game and all this other stuff. And I remember there was even like a picture that got posted on Twitter of his death and people were losing their mind about that. And one of the funniest things I think about is like leading up to The Last of Us, they had one trailer, and like in the trailer they basically replaced Joel where Jesse's at actually in the game. And I remember that happened, they were replacing, but it's like, dog, they can't do that now because, you know, that one new law that's out that's like, yeah, you can't do none of that. But I just remember that happening. I was so mad. I was like, dog, why did you show me something that I can't have? I remember at that, because it was so funny at that point just seeing that thing. But yeah, once this game came out, I remember running to GameStop when I finally got time, picked it up. I literally made an unboxing video of me unboxing this and I was super happy. It's a funny old ass video that like, it's not the best. It's on my other channel. And two of my other friends, we all were playing this around the same time. My first friend, he started first because he got the game digitally. I had to go pick this up. Then I had another friend that got the game later, like I think like the next day or something. But we all were playing around the same time. And by the time each of us beat this game, we each had our own opinions. Some of our opinions did align when it came to certain story topics, certain characters, other things. We had like kind of the same opinion-ish for certain things, hit or miss, but we all had like some about the same. I remember after beating this, one of the things I did is I beat the game, then I went back like a few days later and went to play the game again because I wanted to platinum it. Because I was like, you know what, let me just try and see if I can platinum this game. I wanted to see, and it was one of the easiest platinums ever. It's not the easiest platinum I ever got, but it's up there because of just how easy it was. And I remember making a tweet saying like, oh, Naughty Dog made this platinum so goddamn easy because of like what they did with this game. Because at the end of the game, I had a certain opinion though. So I want to talk about one of my favorite parts that's in this game, and that is the Hillcrest all the way to the hospital, because that section right there is where the game opens up and it shows you like all the different new improvements that are happening to this game. Yes, you do see the improvements early on when you're with Dina. And this long stretch, you're finally by yourself for the first time in the game, besides that, you know, the one little section before, you know, you find Joel's death and all that. But like, you're finally by yourself and you can experience all these new combats, all the new stealth and all this other stuff, and you also encounter new enemies. So that's why I really like this stretch, especially if you like stealth. This game made a big improvement to stealth because one, they added the tall grass. You of course you still have the bow and arrow, and of course they added the, you know, the suppressors that you can get the silencers, make a silencer pistol, or if you like, you know, you beat the game new plus, you get that silencer SMG or whatever. So yes, they add a lot of extra things, and like this section just highlights all the stealth, because one of the things that they did emphasize about this game when it was first coming out is that Ellie's agility, how she has way more agility than what Joel had in the first game. And like, it's shown because one, she can run way faster and she can also lay on the ground. And bro, with the laying on the ground really does come in clutch, especially when enemies are coming close to the grass. You can just pop them like that. You line up, you know, the gun, pop them like that, or the bow and arrow, you can get them. So like, it adds a lot to stealth. But also in this area, they introduce a new enemy, and And it's a new enemy that like, it's like, why did they have to add them in the game? It's like, why? And that is the dogs. They introduced the dogs. Yes, the dogs are brought in this area, and this is like becomes one of them decisions of, do you take the dogs out or do you leave them there and take out their owner? But the dogs do add a new challenge because the dogs can sniff you out and basically lead people towards you. When it comes to the dogs, the one problem I have is that it seems like I always take them out in the craziest ways, and which is sad because when you get that first dog that's introduced, I always plant a trip mine right there. That way you can take that dog out. But like, every time I'm just like, why did they have to introduce these dogs? And then of course, you know, they had to bring them dogs back for the rattlers. And it's like, why did you have to bring that dog back? Just keep that with the wolves. But yes, they introduced dogs, and dogs do add a new challenge. And one of the funny things I do remember is like when they first announced that dogs in this game and like their enemies, people were yelling at them like, y'all dog, why did y'all add dogs in here? And then they said, oh, you can keep the dogs alive, but then you play the game, you realize you might as well just take the dogs out. And that's what I do, like explosive arrows. I'm sorry, I have to hit them with explosive arrows because it takes out them and the person they're with. You know what even sucks even worse is when some of them dogs, you know their names, like the dog Bear that you get introduced to early on, and you play fetch with it and you're throwing the ball, and then you see it again at the hospital, and then you find out that Bear, when you take out Bear, you have their owner that yells, we're like, Bear!
Got something, Bear? Bear! I think it came from back.
And it's just like, why did they have to do that? That's the one thing I'm just like, why? But I digress though. That's enough of the dog ramble. So along with dogs being new enemies, the other new enemy that Ellie encounters and we encounter in this game are the scars, and they're the other enemies that are in this game. Because the thing is that you don't realize is that Ellie's basically walking into a war zone. If you read a whole bunch of like the letters that are scattered throughout the game, you know like the reasons why the scars and the wolves are really beefing. It goes along the line of them trying to take control of the city. And also, if you read, you realize that the wolves actually kidnapped and captured the leader of the scars, the one that's the prophet, and eventually they packed her up because a lot of the wolves, they realized that she wasn't bad, and you know, Isaac being the one on charge, he packed her up because he was like, no, I can't have people being swayed by her. So yeah, that's one of the major reasons why you have the scars and the wolves like at high tensions right now, because they're beefing a lot. And then Ellie just runs right into them, and that's when, you know, Ellie goes on this rampage, just killing so many people. And I mean so many, like she's up there with the new Lara Croft, like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, for how many bodies that Ellie catches in this game. And like, it's kind of crazy the amount of bodies she catches, because I'm like, Ellie's not this type of character, but they made her this type of character. If you know, you know. In this area, you get introduced to the scars, and there's a lot of like cool areas that you can like stealth on. And like one of my favorite areas to do when it comes to that parking garage is like, there's this one section after you get past this tree, you can just hide there in the grass, maybe make some noise that enemies will come by, and you can just take them out back to back because they keep coming over there, and you just pile bodies up, I guess you could say, because it's a kind of cheese spot. And another part I like about it when you go to the hospital is, as you're swimming to the hospital, you basically hear all the chatter about like who they're looking for, because they're basically looking for Abby, because we know if you get to the Abby part, you know that Abby escaped, and that's why everybody's on high alert at the hospital, because they're searching for her. And then you get to the hospital, and you have that one scene where the one girl, you know, is playing, I think like Hotline Miami or something like that. She's playing that game, and it's like in the Abby section you meet that character, so it's just like, oh, I remember you, we packed you up. And also in the hospital, that's another really good section to have stealth, because you got to take out all them people that are outside along with going inside, and you have to stealth that. There's a lot of areas that you can stealth really well when it comes to that, especially using bow and arrow and, you know, the two different silencers. But the SMG or the machine gun works out way better with that because it adds something new. But the other thing that can happen in that section is that I love is that you can sneak past all the enemies and get to that door really fast, because I've done it multiple times in different playthroughs where you just run past a lot of different enemies, and if you go the right direction to sneak past them, you can hurry up and get in that door before they notice and shit. And then we get to the final section with Nora, and I like this section with Nora because it finally highlights a lot of stuff in this game that shows that Ellie is going through it. Because like when Ellie's right there with Nora, you can tell that Ellie really does not want to do what she want to do, especially when you see her finally come back after doing that, and you see how shaken up she is when she's like around Dina, and she's really shaken up, because like this is not what Ellie does. And I mean, that's what they made her character, but it's like, dog, this is not what Ellie is used to. This is something like Joel and Tommy would be used to, with all this killing and then even beating information out of people, because you could tell how shaken up she was in that scene. And that's why I do like that scene, because it just shows how shaken up she is, because trust me, she goes through some shit when it comes to like the Nora part. The Nora part really highlights that. But yeah, it's just a really fun section, the hill crest all the way to the hospital, because all the different interactions that you have with the enemies, and it can highlight the stealth. It can highlight some of the new mechanics when it comes to the enemies, like calling out each other's names, or wondering where somebody's at, or announcing that somebody died, or the dog sniffing for you, or when it comes to the scars, them doing whistling, and then like them trying to find you, and then them also using bow and arrows and all these other type of things. But yeah, it's a really fun section, and it's probably the one section I enjoy the most in the whole entire game. So when it comes to arsenals, I really enjoy Ellie's arsenals more than Abby's, mainly because she has the bow and arrow, and of course she gets the explosive explosive arrow, and then she gets the trip bomb, and then you get the stun grenade, and then you get the Molotov. And like, I like all that better than what Abby gets. Yes, Abby does have a flamethrower, and she does have a better shotgun because her shotgun is better, and she does have a hunting pistol that I do like. But at the same time, I do like all the weapons that Ellie gets, especially when she gets that silencer machine gun. That's one that I really like. But they both have really good arsenals, but I just enjoy Ellie's more, especially if you're trying to do more stealth stuff. I really enjoy hers more, where Abby's more if you just want to go out swinging and making all the noise that you want. So I want to talk about some of the enemies, because I do like the enemies that were introduced in this game. Especially you have the Shamblers, which are one of the new infected that are introduced, and I love the way that they're introduced, because we go down to that one area, and in that area we see that, oh, there's somebody here that's burnt, and then we hear like all the wolves talking about something down here, and then we see the wolves get taken out because we just see this big thing explode. And then when you first fight them, you're like, what is this? And you have to take them out. But I just really love how they're introduced, and then you see them throughout the rest of the city, because they're actually a really good enemy that, like, it makes sense that it would be different than the bloater. And of course, you know, in this game we still get the bloater, we still get the runners, the clickers, all that. And then one of the enemies that was improved is basically the stalkers, because I remember in the first game the stalkers were very forgettable, but in this game they actually were very memorable because of that one section that we have that's in that likely building, and like it's all dark and all that, and you just see the stalkers just like looking at you, and you're like, do they see me? Like, that whole section was kind of crazy, because you can go through that and try and stealth, but sometimes you have to go through, you know, guns blazing and just hit them with a shotgun. But that section was very memorable, especially for the stalkers. It made them way more memorable. And then also we have the Rat King that was introduced in the Abby's thing, which is actually a really cool enemy that shows like a cluster of infected. They've been there for years, like clustered together. So that was a really dope enemy. And of course I talked about dogs already. Dogs were really good to introduce because of like what they do. And then of course we have wolves, and then we have scars that introduce, and like scars are really interesting because they use bow and arrow, and they do whistling and all this other stuff. But like, besides, and that's just like the main scars, but we also have these big scars that are actually like super strong. When it comes to Ellie wise, we only fight them a little bit, but we fight them more with Abby. I will say you can take them out with a shotgun really easily. If you're point blank range, a shotgun would tear them apart, or you can like blow them up with explosive arrows and stuff like that. But they do eat up hits when it comes to them. Now, another area that I thought was really cool when it comes to Abby scenarios, when she first meets Lev and Yara, and they're in the rain in that section was actually really dope, because one, it's raining, it's all dark, and then at that point we have to basically fight with our hands against the stalkers that are coming up, and that scene was just really dope. And especially like as you're running and you finally get your weapons, and you have like that one-on-one with that one big guard, and like you have to fight them and whoop they ass. That section was dope. But I will say the part when we get into like that one crumbling building, and out of nowhere multiple Shamblers come, I was like, dog, no, why did they have to do this? But you just gotta hurry up and run and get out of there. So another thing I really enjoy about this game is when it comes to the enemies, you can basically make them fight each other, especially if it's like you say you have the wolves and the infected. You can basically make them fight each other, and you can have them kill each other, take out whoever's left if they survive. That's the one thing I do like about this. And also you can run past enemies and get to like certain checkpoints, especially if you stealth through it. Like in that section when you're in the subway with Dina, and you have the wolves looking for you because of what you did in the elementary school, and like if you throw glass or a brick or whatever, you can alert the clickers that are down there, and they basically can fight each other. And then like you go run, you just stealth past them and get to the train and hurry up and open that door. That's some of the things I like. You can also do that in the hospital, but there's a lot of areas that you can do that, which is really enjoyable, because you just like, dog, you can just skip all this pointless conflict and just get to the next part of the game. But let's talk about the main point of this whole game, and that's the story. So the story is basically kind of revenge and trauma, because we knew that from the jump, because the reveal trailer literally showed us that this game was going to be about revenge. And when it comes to Ellie and Abby, we both see that they have trauma throughout this whole game, from stuff that has happened in the past or stuff that happened. And of course, when it comes to Ellie, we see that she goes on this whole revenge trip because of what Abby did to Joel. We'll touch on the Joel stuff later. I just want to talk about Ellie, because we see Ellie's on this revenge tour, and she basically wants to take out anybody and everybody associated with Abby, and she does not care, because Ellie catches so many bodies on this trip, and I mean, she packs up so many different people. And we see this does start to take a toll on her, because when she finally runs into Nora, and then she has to beat the information out of Nora, and we see when she arrives back at the theater with Dina, you see how like much that is taking a toll on her. It really starts to like come in a lot when she does what she does to Owen and Mel, because she realizes that Mel was pregnant, and we saw it really hit her, because Ellie honestly did not want to do all the stuff that she wanted to do, because there's multiple times that she was just like, this is stupid. When it comes to the girl that was playing, I think it was like Hotline Miami, I think that's the game she was playing, I can't remember, it was something like that, but like she was like, that was dumb, because she didn't even want to really kill her like that, because like the girl just went and attacked her, and Ellie was like, this is dumb. And it's kind of the same with Nora, because like she tells Nora, she's like, yo, I can end your life quickly, that way you don't suffer down here. But then, you know, she eventually beats her out of her, and she most definitely did not want to kill Owen and Mel because the way she was, because at that point she was kind of just tired and fed up, because she just wanted to run into Abby and beat Abby. And also throughout the story we see like how Joel's death affects her, and it affects her a lot because she has nightmares about it and trauma, especially once they they arrive to their farmhouse and you see that she's still dealing with this and it's like still haunting her, and that eventually leads her to finally like go out and find Abby and all that. And the funny thing about that is, if you think about it, if she would have just waited maybe like a few more weeks, Abby more than likely would have died on her own because of like where Abby was. She was like on that, she was basically on, you know, on them poles hanging up and all that. She probably would have more than likely passed away just because like the way they treated her at that camp. When we see when Ellie finally goes to California, she just wants that closure, and she kind of just gives up on that life that she had with Dina when it comes to just, you know, having the child, being happy with Dina being there, because Tommy gives her that idea about like, oh, here goes this filler I had about finding where Abby's at. And you see, she just wants this closure at that point because she went on that whole revenge path and took out multiple people, but she never really got to take out Abby because, you know, the one part where you could have took out Abby, we had to control Abby, just saying. But yeah, we just see that she was on this revenge path and she really just wanted some closure. I will say, when I first beat this game, I was pissed off that Ellie did not kill Abby because I was like, why did you not kill her? I was like, I wanted to kill her in that situation because of all the shit we went through in this game, because everybody else associated with Abby got packed up either by Ellie or Tommy or the Scars. They got packed up, and it's just like we didn't get to pack her up. We basically just let her go. After playing this game multiple times, it made me finally realize that the reason why Ellie really did not kill Abby in that moment is because she realized that basically killing Abby and getting this revenge is never going to make her happy again, and that Joel's never going to come back. Because we kind of see that with basically Abby, that Abby's never truly happy even after she kills Joel. We kind of basically see that with the way she acts throughout this game. But that's kind of why she really did not kill Abby, because at that moment it's like it's pointless and all that. And plus we see all these different flashbacks, especially a lot of things that happened in this game when it comes to like her relationship with Joel, and we see the decision that Joel made and how it impacted Ellie, because we see Ellie is still questioning because like she never fully believed everything that Joel said until like she eventually goes to Salt Lake City and she sees all the stuff that's there and the fireflies are all gone and all this other stuff, and she realizes that Joel more than likely was lying.
Tell me what happened here. If you lie to me one more time, I'm gone. You will never see me again. But if you tell me the truth, I'll go back to Jackson. No matter what it is. Just say it. Joel.
Making a vaccine would have killed you. So I stopped them.
Oh my God. Don't you fucking touch me! I'll go back. But we're done.
And that's when you see like the relationship is cut off. But by the end of the game, we do see that they started to slowly but surely amend their relationship. And it just kind of sucks that, you know, he passed away. But at least she was able to amend their relationship at the very end instead of it ending on a sour note. Even though, I mean, it kind of did end on a sour note because he passed away. But I digress though. Now, when it comes to like Ellie's role into the story, I actually enjoy her role in the story because we do get the flashbacks we needed with her and Joel. And we do get to see her go on this revenge tour. And we actually get to see her like actually grow as a character when it comes to just like realizing that revenge is not the path. And we do see how revenge and all this trauma affects her, especially when it comes to like how much toll all this killing was doing, because Ellie's not that type of character. Tommy and Joel are this type of character that can go out and just kill people relentless like the way they do, because we see that with Joel in the first game, how he can just kill people because he's been doing this for years. Ever since the outbreak first happened, he's basically been having to do stuff like this. But Ellie, on the other hand, this is not really who she is. She shouldn't have to go out there and go on this crazy revenge tour. Now, when it comes to Abby's a character I have a lot of mixed emotions about, because Abby in general, you're supposed to basically hate Abby in a way, because they want you to basically hate her because of what she did to Joel, and then they make you play as her and you kind of get sympathy for her a little bit. But at the same time, Abby has so many faults, because Abby's a character that has been obsessed with getting revenge, because ever since she found out that her dad was killed by Joel, all she wants is revenge. And we see that through flashbacks, and we see her through present day, like all she ever wanted was this revenge. Because in flashbacks, we see when they first basically get to Seattle, and like they've been in Seattle for a little bit and they're doing training, we see that Owen even gives her a chance. He's like, yo, how about we leave this and we can just live here at this aquarium doing all this other stuff and just be happy here. And she's like, yo, I still want revenge. She's like, I can't do that because I want to do revenge. And we saw that she got super buff and then trained a lot to get super strong and all this other stuff, and like focus on killing and all this other thing, because she's the best scar killer in the Wolves. I mean, we can basically say that she kind of did all this because she wanted to eventually one day find Joel, that she can get her revenge. And we see that she wants to get her revenge so much, because like there's that other flashback when she tells Owen, she's like, oh, I heard that Joel's brother Tommy, he used to be a Firefly and he has a settlement in Jackson. Maybe he knows where Joel's at. We need to do this. And at that moment, Owen's basically telling her, he's like, yo, we do not need to do this. Like, you need to stop. Like, give up. He's probably more than likely not there, and all this other stuff. And we just see that she's super obsessed, that they even go to Jackson to find Joel, and then eventually they do find Joel. You know the scene when she finally arrives at the aquarium and she finds Owen, and then like her and Owen are talking, and Owen actually does have some good dialogue for her when he's talking about like, oh, should I go out and find the murderer of my family too and murder them? Like, he literally has that good dialogue, but then it leads into a kiss, and then it leads into a sex scene.
We'll talk in the morning when you're sober.
Don't do that.
Do what?
Treat me like I'm fucking insane. You feel the same way.
If the Fireflies are in Santa Barbara, I go the opposite fucking direction. What?
Nothing.
Sorry I grew up. You should try it.
Oh yeah? How do I do that? Should I go find the people that killed my family? Cut into them? I could torture them until they're crying, you know? Abby.
Instead of having Abby right then and there talk about like what she did to Joel and all this other stuff, because I just feel like that could have actually been really good dialogue that could have been between the two, because you know throughout the game we really don't know what Abby really thinks after she killed Joel like that. We just see that she just wanted to, because you know she's a character that's obsessed with revenge. Ever since she found her dad dead, all she's wanted is revenge, and we see that throughout the game with her being the top scar killer, with her even going and doing what she did to Joel. And we just see that she's been so obsessed on revenge, because some of the flashbacks we get with her and Owen multiple different times, we see that all she wants is revenge, and that's all she's been thinking since her dad passed away, since basically Joel murdered her dad and she found out that her dad was dead. And we really don't get no moment in this game that shows like how she actually feels, because I mean she achieved her revenge and we don't really see nothing that shows like how she actually truly feels now that after achieving it, because that's what she spent her whole life on, was just getting this revenge. And we don't really get no point in the story that shows that. We see that basically her life being all wrapped around revenge. Did it truly make her happy? Not really, because Abby actually is a bad person. I mean, and the story really highlights why she's a bad person. Like, the first thing is like that sex scene right there. Why does she have sex with Owen even though Owen has a pregnant girlfriend? And then throughout the game, like, she never mentions anything to Mel, and it just kind of gives off that like that's something that happens all the time. Like, that little scene is just like, it's just normal. So one thing I do have to mention, of course, is Owen. Owen's also a very bad person, because how do you have a pregnant girlfriend but you're still hung up on your ex? And through all the cutscenes that we see and the interactions that Abby and Owen have, we can see that he's still hung up on Abby because the flirting they have. Yes, I know there are people who are still friends with their exes, but the way they're friends, dog, they seem way too goddamn close. The flirting that be happening and the way they're able just to kiss and all that happens just like that so fast, it just gives off that this is a normal thing that they're doing behind Mel's back. When it comes to the scene, they're both to blame, but I would argue that Owen is more to blame because he could literally cut all this off by just telling her no, or he did not have to kiss her when they were fighting and wrestling. So he's most definitely to blame. And also he wanted to bring Abby with him to Santa Barbara when it's like, you should know that your pregnant girlfriend does not like Abby because she can tell like how close y'all are, and like she feels something about that. And it also gives off that he never really thinks about Mel's well-being at all, besides like the final time when Ellie kills Mel and he's like, she's pregnant as he's passing away. So like it kind of just gives off that he never really cared for her like that. He would always care for Abby, it seemed like, way more, with going to Abby all the way to Jackson and then worrying about everything about her, and didn't really give off that he really cared about Mel that much though. But like he's most definitely to blame for some of the stuff that happens in this series when it comes to Abby, because the attachment that these two have, because they've known each other for so long, and you can tell the way it ended, it kind of just gives off that he just went to Mel as a rebound just because he really could never be with Abby, because he knows that Abby's whole obsession over getting revenge and how a relationship between the two would really never work. And that's what it kind of just gives off. He's most definitely to blame when it comes to the sex scene that happens, because he's at much fault as much as Abby is. And I do think that Owen is a bad person with the way he does things. So the one part I do find is funny about this, that you can tell that Abby kind of is a bad person, because when she's talking to Nora and them are talking about like the aquarium and all that, and how Owen's looking for the fireflies, and Nora's like, oh, I feel bad for Mel, and then Abby's like, yeah, I do too. And it's like, dog, of course you should feel bad because of what you're doing. And so the one part I really love is when Mel is eating up Abby, because like she comes in that scene, she's like, Abby, you're a bad person. She's like, everybody that's around you always gets messed up and things gets ruined because of you, and was just eating her up. And then, you know, Abby want to be all there and crying and all that. I'm like, dog, Abby, you are a bad person. I said some of the things that you do, it's like, it shows that you're a bad person, because like Mel's like, yo, you're not coming with me. If you're coming with me, I am not going with Owen.
I figured you'd have talked him out of going by now.
Actually, I'm going with them. But not if you come.
What?
He may fall for your little act with these kids, but I don't.
There's nothing to fall for.
Isaac's top scar killer suddenly had a change of heart. Nothing to do with Owen, right?
I haven't always done the right thing.
You're a piece of shit, Abby. You always have been. I'm done with you. You want to do right by these kids? Get out of their lives before you screw them over too.
And the reason why I really love that scene is just because we see that Mel's really giving her the truth, like the harsh truth, and like it really hurts Abby deep down, because you see tears are coming in her eyes, and it really does hurt her, because she's telling her the truth about like, yo, you're just somebody that ruins a lot of stuff. And all the people that are wrapped around Abby, they all get packed up because they just had to go with Abby to Jackson, and they all got packed up. Like the only people that really had a connection is, of course, Manny, Owen, Nora, and Mel. But I mean, that's the majority of the crew. They just added Leah and Danny, and then like the other guy, I think they added because they met him, whatever. But yes, they all had connections to it, but at the same time, they all got packed up. And they got packed up either by Ellie, Tommy, or, you know, Scars, because Leah got packed up by Scars. And I will say this, Manny's death was crazy though. I will say that his death is so unexpected, because Tommy ran into that building, he came out and popped his ass. I was shocked, and at that moment you saw there was a little shock right there of Abby. I think one of the key differences between Abby and Ellie's show, when Ellie takes out Mel and finds out she's pregnant, Ellie is freaking out because she's like, oh, like, did I just really do that? But then when, you know, the scene where basically Abby and Ellie are fighting, and, you know, and Dina comes around and like, he's like, yo, she's pregnant, and like basically Abby wanted to stab Dina and like kill her, because like, she was like, good. But that's when Lev's like, yo, chill, that is doing way too goddamn much. But yeah, when it comes to Abby as a character, yes, she is shown to be like a bad person, because we do see some of the things that she does in here is kind of bad, even like backstabbing some of her friends, even though you could say her and Mel are like frenemies, because they're only really friends because they have a connection because of her dad and everybody else else that used to be part of the Fireflies. But yes, you have her doing bad stuff like that, all the killing that she does. But I mean, she tries to make up for it because she does have trauma from her dad passing away. We see that happens multiple times with her going back to save Yara and Lev. And like even Lev and Yara, they're like, yo, why do you help us? Like, why do you want to help us? And like, she doesn't even really know. But I see it as like her kind of basically finding a new purpose in life. That's kind of what she was missing when it comes to her life. She needed a new purpose because she based her whole life around getting revenge. She really didn't know what to do after that. And that's why she kind of wants to go to the Fireflies and like escape the wolves and all this, because she kind of wants to like to start a new life. Like that's kind of what I just interpret from like the way she acts throughout the game. So when it comes to Abby's playthrough, I do feel like there's a lot of things that could have been cut out, because I do feel like some of it was fluff and kind of didn't really need it like that. There's some cutscenes in some places that she goes. I will say the sky bridge all the way to the hotel is a prime example. I do feel like we could have had part of that there, but some of that could have been cut out. Like I feel like the sky bridge could have been a cutscene, I can't lie, like, or we could like skip past it, because I can't lie, I've fallen off that a few times, but that was like the first time I ever played. But I do feel like some of that could have been cut out, but at the same time it's a set piece, so it makes sense why you would do it, because Abby's is scared of heights, and we finally get to see this character that's like basically has shown that she's relentless and she's not scared of anything. But now we find out that she's scared of heights. I mean, we have seen it when she was on the Ferris wheel, you know, with Owen, but besides that, we see that this is the one thing that she's truly scared of is heights. And I mean, why wouldn't you? Have you seen how tall that shit is all the way up in the air? It's on a big ass skyscraper. But yes, I would feel like some of that could have been cut out, and especially when you're running through that hotel, I feel like some of that could have been cut out. Like when you have to go get the mask for Lev, we could have cut that out and we could have just went all the way down, because I mean that hotel, you can get through all that and then you fight a bloater. But I just feel like there's certain things that could have been cut out when it comes to Abby's playthrough. But I will say one of the good things I did enjoy about Abby's campaign is actually seeing all the characters that, you know, eventually we pack up, you know, with Ellie, and seeing them early on and seeing the interactions Abby has with them, even though Abby's going to eventually turn on a lot of these wolves because, you know, she's trying to protect Yara and Lev, because, you know, she has this new sense of justice and urgency. You know, one thing that I still hate that we had to do when we had to play as Abby is when we finally catch up to Ellie day 3 and we get the scene where she basically killed Jesse. RIP Jesse, because he did not deserve that. Just saying, he did not deserve that. And then Tommy got popped. It's just we had to play with Abby. And I will say the one thing I did like is that the whole time, like when you get to that second level of the area and like Ellie's like literally laying trip mines and all this other stuff, I'm like, wow, I'm like, Ellie's playing like how I would, because I would do this to her. But yeah, in that section I was so mad I could not switch to Ellie, because I remember that happening when I first played it. I was so goddamn pissed, and I can't lie, I let Abby die a few times that way because I was just pissed about that shit. I just got some final few things I want to talk about. And of course, you know, this game does look beautiful, and I mean, it does look beautiful. It's amazing what they did with this game, especially this being like one of the last major big titles that was exclusively made for the PS4 Pro, because they used everything and pushed this system to the furthest. Because when you play this game on the PS4, just know it will sound like it, you know, a jet's about to take off and you're in the air. But on the PS5, you know, it does not sound like that at all. But it's just funny that they pushed the limits of that system, and it's amazing what they did with that game on that system though, because it's one of the most beautiful ones. That, and of course Spider-Man, and you know, 2018 God of War, like those three are the most beautiful games that are like when it comes to just like the main series titles that are on the game, or just exclusives I should say. Another thing that I noticed that I did not know you could do in this game is if there's an infected, you know, chopped in half or, you know, blown in half and it's still alive and it's moving by, you can stump on its head like it's Resident Evil, because you know in the older Resident Evil games you could kick off the head or stump on the head. That's what you can do in this game, and I never knew that you could do it in this game. I know for like the Last of Us Part 1 trailer, I remember them showing like a section where you can stump on the head, and I was like, yo, when could you do that? But I did not know they added that in Last of Us Part 2, because I did that with Abby, I think, and I was like, yo, when could you do this? So probably one of the best things to do in this game, just like the first game, is breaking glass. Breaking glass is phenomenal. I love breaking glass in this game.
Smart.
I will go out of my way in this game just to break glass, and it's so therapeutical, along with like, of course, you know, searching for items and all that, but it's so amazing. I just love breaking glass. It's one of the funnest things to do in this game, and I love it still because it's so goddamn amazing to break glass. So another thing I really do enjoy about this game, that's a little just section I want to talk about real quick, is like the little puzzles. There are little areas that have little puzzles that you have to like somehow unlock a door that's locked, like either like, you know, using a rope and throwing it some type of way, because you know this game introduced like cords and ropes that you have to throw to like do certain type of things. So that's one of the things I like. And another thing is the safes. I feel like the safes are way easier to find in this game, because I swear in the first game, like, you would miss safes. Like, there was that one area that had like all them clickers down in the underground, and like I remember missing the first safe because at that point I'm not really trying to, like, you know, explore anything. I'm just trying to get out of there because you have all them clickers there, and that's early on in the game before you had shifts, or like you could take out, like, you know, clickers easier, like with melee weapons and stuff like that. So that's just one little thing I just had to mention real quick. I do like that. And also I do have to mention these because I talked about this earlier, but I did not go in detail. I love that there's areas in this game that you can cheese when it comes to the grass, because there's so many different areas that you can cheese with the grass. Because the two areas I always do it the most in is that parking garage area that I mentioned earlier with when you first get introduced to the scars, and that area right there, there's like a cheese spot where you can just chill and just hit them with the bow and arrow, and you know, with the, you know, silencer pistol. And then also another area is in the Rattler's case, is when you get to like the second area of the Rattler's base, and you can just hide in the grass and just and pick them out with the bow and arrow and the silencer. And I just love that, especially if you have the silencer SMG. That really adds a lot to it. I still do enjoy this game. Yes, this game does have problems. Like, trust me, it does have problems when it comes to the story. I do feel like a lot of the stuff when it comes to basically Abby could have been cut out. And when it comes to Joel's death, and I know I did not mention this, and we have to talk about Joel's death real quick. I know this video is going online, but we got to talk about Joel's death. So when it comes to Joel's death, a lot of people complain about his death, just saying like they are not aware of all this other stuff. But if you actually watch it, the whole time Tommy was over here questioning them, like, and like he was ready, you know, for some type of action because he was just questioning them. The one thing I do have to say is, like, when it comes to that whole scene, it gave off that nobody there really knew that that was Joel besides maybe Abby, because it seems like none of them really knew what Joel looked like, because all the people that were there that were part of the Fireflies, they did not look at Joel in any type of way just being like, oh, this is Joel. They all didn't pop off until he said his name was Joel. So I feel like if he would have just lied and said his name was something different, I wonder what their reaction would have been. That's the one thing I do just wonder, like, what exactly their reactions could have been, because it kind of gave off that they didn't know besides Abby. Because like Owen even is like, he's like, yo, who are they? Like, that's the thing he was saying. He's like, who are they? And then like Tommy's talking about, oh, you guys should come back to Jackson, refuel with us. And they're all like, yeah. Like, everybody's like fine right there because they don't really know that that's Joel until he says his name. And it's like, what if that could have been any type of Joel? But I think it's because Tommy's there. But in that situation, Tommy was filling him out, trying to like assess the situation. But it just happened to, you know, they said their names. Like, if they would have had maybe, you know, fake names, then maybe the situation would have been different. But I mean, it makes sense that he would get, you know, killed because Joel has crossed a lot of people's paths. And I mean, and especially what he did to the Fireflies, it makes sense that some Fireflies would come after him and take him out because of what he did in that hospital and how many people he packed up. But I do think one of the things I wish they would have added is I wish they would have made a scene that like Abby or something was hiding, like at when Joel was shooting everybody, that we could have saw that Abby would have seen what Joel looked like, and it would have made more sense. Because like, yes, it does give off that she does know that that's Joel, because the way she freaks out when she first sees him and the way she's freaking out the whole time there. But it just gave off that nobody else in the group really knew what Joel looked like besides her. But I mean, she did not say it was Joel, but I do feel like she would have probably said it was Joel if he lied about his name. But I don't know though. But that's one of the things that did happen in the game, and it does make sense that he dies. Like, it's because like, I mean, he crossed a lot of people's paths and all that, but I know a lot of people, they hate his death because they're like, oh, why did you have to say his name and all this other type of stuff. The Last of Us Part 2 still is a really great game to me. Yes, it does have its problems, like every game has its problems, but trust me, there's stuff that could have been cut out in this game, especially when it comes to the story. There's certain stuff about the story that's not the best, I will say, when it comes to covering certain characters. I will say the way they handled Lev and Yar's whole situation could have been better in my opinion though. And when it comes to the wolves and the scars, you really have to read so many notes to really learn about them as a group. Same with the Rattlers that were introduced super late into the story, because I mean, they're introduced super duper late. They're like a last minute thing, it seemed like though. But yeah, this game will probably still be one of the most controversial games probably ever, until maybe if they ever make a part 3, who knows though. And one of the things I always do think about is like, if this game actually would have got DLC, but you know, they announced soon, they're like, yeah, no DLC ever coming into this game. But I always do think about like, what would have been an interesting DLC, maybe playing as a Scar or something like that, maybe playing as a different wolf, maybe playing as Tommy, seeing his adventures. But one of the funny things that happened is, in the works of making this video, I know there's been rumblings and leaks already about like this was supposed to come out, but it actually finally came out, is that we're getting The Last of Us Part 2 remaster. Even though technically it's just a PS5 upgrade along with a few other additions. That's honestly what they should have said instead of a remaster. But I mean, it's going to be a $10 upgrade, which I guess is better because majority of people already have this game. I know there's going to be people that are going to go out and buy the $70, you know, remaster thing. I don't know what they've been on when it comes to like Uncharted and it comes to Last of Us now. They've just been remastering stuff, remaking and all this other stuff. But I mean, it's kind of Sony. Sony's been on some BS when it comes to their exclusives with trying to just like remaster and port all these things to the PS5, mainly because the PS5 doesn't have that many games. But yeah, I mean, this sounds like it's gonna be, you know, alright, because I mean, we're getting some lost levels, but I guess it's not gonna be nothing crazy. It's gonna have commentary. We're getting new outfits. That's one cool thing. And we're also getting this rogue mode, which that basically reminds me of Mercenaries from Resident Evil, because you know Resident Evil has that, because like you can play as multiple different characters in here. You can fight all these different enemies and stuff like that. It literally just gives me Mercenaries mode. That's what from all the stuff I've seen, that's what it basically just reminds me of, that they're just like ripping off Mercenaries mode from basically Resident Evil, and they're putting in The Last of Us just as like an extra incentive to buy this, along with, you know, we get the graphical improvements that they're saying that needs to be added to this game, which is like barely anything in my opinion, because I saw a then and now thing and it's like it's barely any difference. The only thing that's probably going to be a real difference is the load time, because I will say the load when you play Last of Us on the PS5, I will say the load time does take a little bit of time instead of like, you know, that quick transition with a lot of other games where like it just is like that. So I guess that's a plus, I suppose. Also, you get the free play the guitar, which I guess for the people that wants to free play the guitar, good for y'all. But I don't know, it just feels like another empty cash grab when it comes to Sony, when it comes to Naughty Dog. It's like, dog, don't y'all have newer games y'all could work on? Don't y'all have other older games that y'all have that need remastered, that are like last time they got a game was maybe on the PS2 era? Just saying, there's other games y'all have. Like, can't y'all focus on other stuff than, you know, remaking your first game that didn't need a remake at all, and then now remastering this game that really did not need a remaster when all you had to do was just make a regular PS5 upgrade? But I mean, it is a PS5 upgrade, but they're selling it as a remaster, that way they can cash on getting more money. That's the thing that sucks about this, I will say, because it's like, it should have just been a PS5 upgrade. They should not be putting out a physical game and calling it Last of Us Part 2 Remaster, which is very dumb in my opinion though. But Naughty Dog just has been about milking and, you know, making as much money as they can. Hopefully after this they don't do nothing else, because the first game did not need the remake that it got. Yeah, it does look good now that it matches the second game, but at the same time, I'm just saying, like, did it really need it? Because I feel like it took a lot of the character, because the remaster that was on the PS4 in my opinion was just fine. It looked fine, but I guess, you know, whatever. I digress though. But yes, Naughty Dog, just at this point, just make something new. Please make something new at this point. But I mean, I'm not mad depending on how many costumes we have. I did see that Ellie's gonna have an astronaut costume, which that's pretty cool. I guess it will add a lot more replayability when it comes to this game. And then the lost levels should be interesting depending on what we get, because I saw 2 of the different levels. It looked like there was one level maybe you're going to be walking through Jackson, and another level that was like some random area. So we'll see what the lost levels are. Hopefully they add something to the story that could actually be interesting. But I also saw that it's not going to be like no like big levels, but hopefully it's just enough like little story-ish that can add enough to the content of it. But yeah, let me know how y'all feel about this remaster. Are you happy? Are you sad? Do you think it's pointless, or do you not really care? Just let me know in the comments though. But yeah, let me know, how do y'all feel about The Last of Us Part 2? I know it's been like what, almost 4 years. It's getting close to 4 years. Starting next year will be 4 years, but it's been over 3 years, I should say, since the games came on. I know so many different people have different opinions on it, but I'm curious, what are your guys' opinion on The Last of Us Part 2? Has it changed since you first played the game, or have you always liked the game, or you been one of the people that have always hate the game? Just let me know how y'all feel about like the game in general. Like, I know I just had to ramble about this because I've been wanting to talk about this game for so goddamn long, because it's a game I've always thought about a lot, because of a lot of the situations that happen in this game, and I've gone back to play this game so many goddamn times, like way too goddamn much. But yeah, just let me know how y'all feel about The Last of Us Part 2 though, because it's one of these controversial games that just split up the fandom though.